after, I had been betrayed, and she was talking about her experience with betrayal and how, she wasn't going to let it go to waste, and she's made it her life purpose to help other people. And I remember reading that, and pardon my language, but I was like, no, this will not be me. I want to get as far away as possible from this. Like, I don't want to deal with these feelings and this pain, and like, no, anything but this. And I remember kind of like talking to God, like, please don't make this my story. Like, I don't want this to be me. And then
hey guys, welcome back to Finding Freedom. We are here in episode 3 of our discussions and episodes with Katelyn. She has shared with us her story of betrayal from about 1.5 years ago at the time of this recording. And then in episode 2, what it looked like for the last 1.5 years within her marriage, her faith, and just some of the conversations that needed to take place, and where hope for freedom came from and all that. So we're now in episode 3, and man, we share such a heart, and I'm so grateful for you, whatever you're kind of about to tell us, and what the Lord has in store for you to be able to help people work through such a challenging time in life and through such a dark place. So Katelyn, can you tell us, I guess, kind of the background about maybe when you decided that you were at a place that you wanted to help even just the first person? Maybe, where did that even start? What was this idea that you were willing to or felt qualified to help someone else?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm actually going to start by sharing a book that I was reading. It's called Happily Even After. I don't even know if you can see it, but it's by
there you go.
By Dana Grash. I know as the sun is setting, the light is changing over here, but I remember reading part of this book after, I had been betrayed, and she was talking about her experience with betrayal and how, she wasn't going to let it go to waste, and she's made it her life purpose to help other people. And I remember reading that, and pardon my language, but I was like, hell no, this will not be me. I want to get as far away as possible from this. Like, I don't want to deal with these feelings and this pain, and like, no, anything but this. And I remember kind of like talking to God, like, please don't make this my story. Like, I don't want this to be me. And then all of a sudden I got this like fire.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. Real quick, I want to tell you about something that is really important. If you don't already have accountability for your devices, we strongly recommend that you need to get something to take care of that. And Covenant Eyes is a great solution. Garrett, tell them about something exciting that Covenant Eyes is offering.
Well, that's right. We can get you a discount. We can actually get you 30 days free with Covenant Eyes. Now, they also offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, and you get up to 10 users for your account that costs only $17 a month or $184 a year at the time of this recording.
Totally worth freedom for that.
Yeah. Unlimited devices. You can protect and get accountability on unlimited devices for only $17 a month. We highly recommend it. And if you use our promo code, promo code, whatever they call it, it is called Light 30 days free. Light 30 days free. Make sure you type that in, get 30 days free, and get that accountability and extra filters on your devices now.
Absolutely. Hey, keep your eyes clean so your heart's clean. And we want to get back to your regularly scheduled program. Here we go.
And I've always been like that. I'm like a very passionate person. And so like if I do go through trials, I am the one sharing what I went through. Here's my story. Here's what I learned. And for whatever reason, I think probably because I was in so much pain, I wasn't ready to talk while I was reading this book. But I did reach a point where it's like I started learning so much about the porn industry and how porn impacts the brain. And I was like, why have I never heard this before? And so I would say it was probably like maybe 4 months after Betrayal when I started like an Instagram page where I just shared like basically infographics. My face wasn't on anything. It was like an online journal and very anonymous. And ironically, it was taken down for violating community guidelines.
Really?
That was interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, okay, so you can have actual porn on this app, but I'm not allowed to speak out against it. Okay,
what?
got it.
Or for real?
Right. So that was really discouraging. I felt like I was getting kicked when I was already down. Like, I'm not even allowed to talk about what is happening to all these people, to me. And so I gave up for a little while, but then, 6 months post betrayal, I just had this like conviction to start sharing about it openly. I talked with my husband and I said, hey, I have a lot to say and I don't think I can convey it through just writing. I want to talk about it. Like, how do you feel about me sharing? And, he had a moment where he's like, oh, okay. Like, this is happening, because there was parts of his story that even his own family didn't know about, like abuse that had happened as a child and things like that. But he was like, go for it. And so I basically got his blessing. He was like, if you can help even one person, then yeah, I do what you need to do. And so I started my TikTok page, which, like I shared in the last episode, that's actually where I found out about my husband's, problem with porn. Right. So it was interesting. Now all of a sudden I'm on this platform and I feel like it was a good platform to share on, because there's a lot of stuff on there that, would probably fall under the category of being porn. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool that, it's really cool. Your husband, gave you that blessing. Not at all that he shouldn't have, but I mean, it's really cool that, that he was able to bless you forward in that. But it's really interesting how Satan was not cool with you moving in this direction. And first, just that fleshly side of reaction. I don't mean that in a judgmental way, of like that book and saying like, no way is that going to be me. Not. And then kind of Lord being like, all right, using your passion, God-given passion to like light a fire in you. And then you try to, and then, Meta's like, nope. And then, but then you didn't stop. And I think that's really awesome that, this isn't about, building a brand or some like, everything has to go viral, but it's like, no, how much did you feel like that was just a part of your journey of healing yourself, let alone, of course, the desire to help others for sure. But like, how much of that was, like you said, it was like almost online journaling at first and your own expression. And how much has that been, as it's continued on, helpful and healing for you?
Yeah, it's been so bittersweet. Because I got that validation but it was also heartbreaking to realize just how many other people are dealing with this. And it started off being like a lot of women like, and my initial posts were quite heated and angry and filled with like, I was still processing through all my feelings. And so I think in the beginning, a lot of women were like, like these men, being terrible or whatever. And it slowly shifted to like, all right, now my heart has been changed and I can, I'm over that initial hurdle of being so hurt. And now I can have empathy and have compassion that, the men that are struggling in this too are also really hurting a lot of the times in various ways. And so, it's been cool to kind of see how it's gone from, me getting this validation and just us women kind of teaming together in our pain to, okay, like now what are we going to do about it? How are we going to change this? What sort of steps can we take forward? Almost like together, it's like I'm healing with them, which has been kind of a cool process. And now I have more and more men reaching out for, resources or things and help overcoming this. So.
Yeah. If you don't mind sharing, I'm not on TikTok, so I'm not sure how this works, but like, how do people find you on TikTok? Like, what would they look for? I don't know how they navigate that.
Well, if you want to find me specifically, you can look up An Honest Love. That's my handle, An Honest Love.
And Honest Love, A-N, Honest Love.
It's An Honest Love. Yes.
Yeah, I like it.
But it's actually funny. So there's not a lot of people, like, as you said, talking about this. But there was one woman that was sharing her story, and it was very similar to mine in a lot of ways. And I had seen it prior to, D-Day, discovering my husband's issues with porn. And I remember seeing it being like, oh, like that poor woman, not my husband, but kind of keep rolling. Yeah. And I remember afterwards I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to find her again. And sure enough, she popped up as the algorithm. But yeah, I think a lot of people found me. There was a couple people actually like local to me that said they found me because, you know, their cousin, you know, got cheated on, and so they were trying to find resources and help her. So I thought it was cool that I actually ended up on their feed. Yeah, marriage, use a lot of hashtags, betrayal, healing, stuff like that.
Yeah. How would you describe what you've experienced on that platform in terms of, like you said, it's been bittersweet. Just for a moment, let's go to the bitter side. You know, how would you describe what you've encountered with people? I'm sure it's a wide range, but you know, invite us into kind of, you know, from your point of view, kind of getting a bit more concentrated toward you in interactions and responses. What are some themes you're catching on to? What are some things you're kind of seeing pretty clearly in you know, even within the diversity of people's situations?
Yeah. If we're going on the bitter side, there are a lot of men in denial that it's a problem. Understand. So because of the society that we live in says it's completely normal. They just don't understand the damage that's actually being done to their relationships, their marriages, their brains. And so that was like a huge focus of mine to try to get to the men, was to be like, no, like, look what's actually happening to your neural pathways, like down to the physical makeup of your brain. But there's still, of course, a lot of people that just don't want to hear it. And honestly, there's a part of me that doesn't really blame them, because ignorance is bliss. But I feel like once you've started to understand what's actually going on, it changes things. And I've had a few guys on there that started off like really just on every one of my posts, sharing their opposition. And then all of a sudden they stop, you know, making the angry comments. And this has happened with 3 people that I can think of off the top of my head, where all of a sudden they ask a question like, well, wait a minute. And these 3 men that I think of specifically have made efforts to actually stop watching porn. It's, I guess I'm going back onto the bittersweet, the sweet side.
That's awesome. Yeah.
You can switch to the sweet side now if you want.
I'm like, can go back and forth, because it's just like a roller coaster of like everyone's opinions meshing together. And there's a lot of people that are like, well, we watch it together, so it's not a big deal. And I'm like, that's still, you're still getting off to people that are likely exploited and being abused and things like that. So, you know, or you're letting your partner use your body while getting off to someone else. That's not healthy. So that's a growing trend of worldly wisdom, even sadly amongst Christians that are thinking, you know, it's fine as long as it's consensual between the both of us. And I obviously disagree with that from a both biblical principle standpoint, and also just a wisdom standpoint, which falls within the biblical wisdom or principle. But anything or anybody else than your spouse, you know, I believe is not a part of God's design. And then also it's going to create issues, whether it seems novel at the time and seems something that might be boosting whatever you think you're looking for. I believe that will backfire in terms of the intimacy, the trust, and the fueling insecurities within the relationship, and just not a part of God's design. What more positive things of you know, you shared these guys switching over. You don't mind naming them and giving us their address? That'd be, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Out them on here.
Yeah, just, you don't mind outing them. No, I'm kidding. But you know, whether it's women or men, any other ways that you say, man, this is, you know, how God's kind of using my story and journey, because it seems evident to me from my perspective, but you know, other ways that women, this is kind of like, man, I needed this, or man, you know, has it been something you've seen people as they find you and find your story? Is that something that's really been, because it's not that common necessarily? I mean, we're not the only ones out there, right? But to talk honestly about this, have people been finding that really helpful and refreshing?
Yeah. I get messages every single day, and it's like of women and even some men pouring their hearts out. And I've had people say like, you've like saved my life because of your videos. I was so alone. I thought I was dealing with this like all on my, like it's isolating. It's so isolating going through this. And because not a lot of people talk about it, when you're dealing with all those feelings and things that happen afterwards, you feel like you're actually going crazy. So I think for a lot of people coming across my videos, they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually, this pain that I'm feeling, it's real and it's validated, by going through my
they suddenly don't feel as alone, even though they may not know you. There's something like, wait a second, I'm not alone in this. There is hope. Like, there's places but she resonates, with the pain, but then they're getting educated at the same time as they listen. Like there's a lot of that mingles together on that journey. That's not just one dimensional, and potentially fast tracking. And I don't mean like microwaving, shortcutting. I mean, fast tracking what you kind of had to journey through and like, what do I do next? As they're listening, I'm sure there's a way that they're like, I wouldn't have thought of that on my own, or it may take me a long time to get to that place of even realizing that, or putting those pieces together, or thinking through that, or thinking from this perspective. And you're able to kind of like, hey, let me help hand you these thoughts and on my own journey that might really help. I think about that for what Garrett and I do is there was a journey that we kind of had to explore, kind of like with a machete in the jungle, a little bit of how to get there. And now we get to invite people to take a little more clear route. Not that it has to be a scripted route, but a very more clear of like, no, these are principles that we know, if you're willing to do them, are going to be things that are going to lead you to freedom and healing. So I'm sure you're a huge, huge help on that.
Yeah. I wanted to be like the person that I needed when I first found out. And I feel really blessed to be able to help. I didn't want my experience. Obviously, in the beginning, I shared I didn't want anything to do with this. But eventually I reached a point where I was like, this is actually an opportunity. And I don't want what's happened to go to waste. Like I have an opportunity here to help all of the people, whether they are struggling with the porn, or the one being hurt by their partner viewing it, or whatever, and all the in between.
Yeah. When I think about the sphere of ministry that you're in, I imagine it's got some challenges to just put yourself out there and kind of, how is that vulnerability, that place of vulnerability? Has it been hard to be kind of vulnerable in such a potentially combative space? Hard or rewarding, or both, to be in a space? I know for me, I'm putting my head out there kind of, and you can kind of get, there's some people, metaphorically applauding, and there's some people who are trying to attack what you're doing. How's it internally been for you on the journey of being more public, being more visible to basically the global stage? And it could be anybody around the world, depending on algorithms and how they find you. But
there's lots of people from overseas and stuff too. Australia, like lots of places. But it's been extremely helpful in my own healing. But also, I have to take time away at times, because it is emotionally draining, seeing all of the messages and things of what these people are going through. Like my heart just goes out to them so much, because like I've been there. I'm still kind of living it and processing through everything. So it's hard at times. Also, I knew there was the risk of people from my very small town finding this, which was interesting. When that finally happened, I had a video kind of go viral, and there was like a lot of backlash. And that was weird, because, everyone up until that point, for the most part, obviously, besides like the men that are like, it's not a problem, but the women and everyone were so supportive. But then it was weird to see that like the people within my own community didn't really have the same response. So that was probably the hardest moment for me, was to realize that it was being received poorly, I guess, within my own like small town.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, I'm sure it's not one dimensional per se, but like why do you think that is? I mean, for instance, Jesus went to his hometown and he got rejected. So
Yeah.
a prophet has no honor in his hometown. Maybe there's something to that in this case. Is that what you attribute to, or what do you think plays into that?
So a lot of them actually felt bad for my husband, which kind of sucked because it's like, here I am going through like the worst thing I've ever dealt with in my entire life. But my husband, like, I guess you guys don't know him, but he's like a big teddy bear kind of guy. Like, he's like a really good guy. And so people were like, oh my gosh, you're like airing your dirty laundry and exploiting your husband for views and things like that. And I'm like, that is not at all what I'm trying to do here. And he's on board. Like, you know, he's in the background of my lives, like, yeah, you know, go you. I'm so proud of you. And so, yeah, the few people that I actually did touch base with and be like, what's going on here? They said that they really, their hearts went out to my husband and they felt badly for him.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, he is a human. Hear me out on this. He is a human, and he deserves to be humanized. But I imagine that kind of, you know, people who can just look at the story and the principle that you're trying to make, the point you're trying to make, that's really broader than just you and him.
Yes.
But they're almost like over humanizing it and kind of missing the point of like, no, this isn't just about him or about me. It's just about the bigger problem at play. And I'm sure they like can almost zoom in a microscope and miss the forest through the trees. Something like that. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yep. The first couple people that I actually did open up to, like even within my own life about what had happened, it wasn't received well. Like I was kind of dismissed. It was very much like, oh, this is, I mean, guys do that. It's not that big of a deal. And it was devastating because here I was going through, I mean, I was barely getting by. And then to have the people closest to me kind of just be like, it was like, that's painful. Yeah.
I had that similar experience quite a few times where I keep getting warned. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Your reputation. What will people think of you? And I'm just like, this is my testimony that millions of households across the world, if not a billion, are dealing with. Whether it's in the dark or in the light, they're dealing with this. This is the only testimony I get. Why would I hide this in the dark? Like that's what the Lord told me. Don't hide it in the dark. Live out in the light. I'm not worried about my reputation. This is to help and to save marriages, to save relationships. And, this is a great time. I just want to give your husband a shout out, man. We love him. I'm so excited for him. I'm so excited that it's out, that he, whether it's took the test, got all the confession, like it's so exciting because I know what it's like to live hiding that since you're a little boy, hiding all those things, so many things for so many years. And then to truly and deeply love somebody with all your heart and to actually not tell them out of fear that you'll lose them. That is so heavy. And to not have to live that way anymore, man, I always say, I don't ever want to go back to that. And I know he doesn't want to go back to that.
No.
And so
many times too, like I do not want that in my life. Yeah. That's
right.
So what, talking about, not being received well, whether it's locally or people close to you, a little different question on that, specific to churches, church leaders. So think broadly here, not just your local context alone, but like what, based upon your experience, which is like your experience, it's not everybody's exact experience, but still, the topic at hand, what would be your message to church leaders who are listening on this topic? And I know that's a big question. We're going to actually be, Gary and I are going to be doing some whole multiple episodes on this topic of the church context. But while we have you on the line, I thought I'd ask you your thoughts on, what, if you have anything to say to church leaders on this topic, what would it be?
They need to have a plan in place. I read a book called The Healing Church by Sam Black, and I believe he mentioned that there's only like 9% of churches that have a plan in place for when someone comes to them saying, hey, we're struggling with porn or sexually acting out in any way. And that's just, I feel like that's unacceptable.
Yeah, it sure is.
Like we got to do better. And I think that the topic of sexuality within the church, they can work a lot on that in general. I think it needs to be talked about, but in a healthy way with less shame. Or like, so that, I know that, I've experienced a couple churches like personally that have turned people away, fired people off of, their leadership, whatever, because they come forward with struggling with something like this. And I also know women who have been asked, well, are you having enough sex with him? Like placing the blame on her. And it's like, there's so many churches that are just not equipped to handle this. And it's just causing more damage. So,
yeah.
Yep.
That's sad, but that's the assessment and hunch that Garrett and I have gathered as well. And partly it's a piece of why we do what we do within Finding Freedom, and just personally, because we need voices that don't feel afraid or bound. Not that they should feel that way, but don't feel afraid of like what we can say, what we can't say, what's gonna, affect whatever, you can go on and on, but like basically like, no, we need to have healthy, honest, biblically grounded conversations. Again, not sterilized, but framed in the right biblical light. And I love that you put have a plan. What is the pathway? What are you pointing people towards? That is trustworthy, healthy, and really going to walk alongside someone with the grace and the truth that they need, and not the shame and the guilt or the ostracizing that could happen directly or indirectly. And like you said, blaming the wife, and it's like, goodness gracious, there's a lot of church hurt that can happen in these situations by them not being handled in better ways. I know I've got one more question, Garrett. I don't know if you have anything else before I ask it, or should I go with it?
We kind of started asking some of our guests some of these questions, so I'm going to ask Katelyn, put her on the spot here.
Okay.
What do you wish someone had told you, and you had heard it and applied it before D-Day? What would have been helpful?
Oh gosh, that's an open-ended question too. What do I wish someone?
Or maybe on D-Day, like, so, not that you could hear or comprehend anything that day, but even on D-Day, let's say that.
I wish someone had told me that it was going to be okay. I didn't even have that, right? Because the people that I opened up to pretty much dismissed me. So I wish that I had someone that would have been able to be a support for me, because I didn't have that either. And it was so isolating. I would have loved to know that like this was all gonna pan out for the good, right? There's purpose in this pain. And knowing that it wasn't going to go to waste. There was a reason that it was happening, and it was all going to work out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I know that we're going to drop some short links below in the description section that's going to shortcut people in a good way to some good, trustworthy resources, depending on what you're looking for, what you need. And I know Katelyn's mentioned a few on here. We'll drop some below. So make sure you check those out. Katelyn, I have a question for you, and this may be the hardest question yet. It's not a edgy question at all. But when you think about the ministry that you've begun to step into and be surrender that over to Jesus, to let him use this pain and healing and the story to help others. Do you have any dreams within your lifetime of no pressure to like, whether this will happen or not, but like when you dream into the future of how God can continue to use you and your story, are there any aspirations or dreams that you have about this area of ministry that God has kind of put a passion and a burden on your heart for, that you'd love to see lived out in your life?
Yeah, I actually just started recently thinking about this, and it's amazing to see how God has like placed people in my life. Because just this morning I was speaking with a pastor's wife, and she was asking me about, you know, me and my husband potentially being a part of their ministry and talking with people about this, because they're like, we've seen, you know, what you guys have gone through, and you've chosen the path of healing. And it was just really, you know, it actually was blindsided about it, because she had invited me to coffee, and I was like, sure, we can get together and catch up. And then she was like, so
let's get down to brass tacks here.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. So like my wheels have been spinning all day. But one of my goals or things, like a dream that I have, is to be able to go into churches and share my story. I would love for TJ to be alongside me in this, and, you know, share his side of things as well, and just be able to offer resources to people, which is hard to do because a lot of churches don't want to have these conversations. But I do feel like I have a way with words. I might be able to swindle my way into some of them.
That's the word I would use if I were you.
Yeah.
Hey,
let's have coffee so I can swindle you.
Right. But like, I want churches to be having these hard conversations, and I'm cool with being that person. So I just like, I'm like, let me in. I want to talk about it. I want to just share what I've learned and what I've experienced, and how there can be freedom. There can be really amazing marriage. Like, there's so much that I want to talk about.
Awesome.
But
that's right.
Man.
Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say
please keep going.
Okay.
I was just reacting. That's awesome. Yeah.
I've also led like a small group at my church for women who have been betrayed, like sexual betrayal. And my husband, it's been really cool to see the way that he's kind of blossomed, because he used to be a very introverted person. It's like he's finding his voice, and he recently expressed to me that like maybe I would do a men's group. And so, yeah, I would ultimately just like to be able to lead a group, whether that's like co-ed or separately, and start talking about it within the church. So
that is awesome. I pray all of those things and many more blessings over your life and ministry, Katelyn. I know that in the short time we've known you, you've been such a blessing and encouragement to us. I'm so encouraged. Again, not that you're the only one out there. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, you're the only person speaking on this, but
right.
Within the very few voices that have a healthy biblical, you know, Jesus kind of mindset on this, in that space, willing to talk about it, willing to be honest and personal, you know, I just think, man, I'm so grateful that you're doing it. I'm so encouraged, and you know, I'm praying that the Lord will continue to amplify your voice online and in person with people at church levels, and that in the right and healthy ways for you and your husband, that he continues to bring you even more and more partnered together, even if it looks a little different person to person, you know, you versus your husband, what that looks like, but a shared heart in that. And I love, you know, the support back and forth that you're continuing to give one another in that. But man, you know, I'm really grateful that you are willing to be here on Finding Freedom, because I hope I know you will, I think, but I really hope you'll be open to being on future episodes with us, because I think it's such a value to have a female voice that is has the same burden in heart that Garrett and I have. I really believe that you absolutely have that same burden in heart that we share, but to bring, you know, that your side of that to the conversation. So, man, it's been an honor. Like, it's been an honor. And again, for those of you out there wanting to connect, you can, again, reach out to us at FindingFreedomAndLight@gmail.com. I can be your secretary to dish out those right things, but check out the links below, and you can find her on TikTok at An Honest Love, right?
Honest Love. Yep.
An Honest Love. What's that?
I said, or Instagram. I mostly share on TikTok,
Instagram.
but
Gotcha.
yeah, I actually answer more messages on Instagram because it's not as overwhelming. So
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Again, on behalf of Garrett and I and Finding Freedom and the Ministry of Better Equipped, thank you so much,
Yes, thank you.
Katelyn, and keep living into the calling and the purpose and that pain that Jesus has called you into, and it's impactful. So if you've been listening and you've been blessed by this, not only share it out, but I'd encourage you to send an encouraging message. Would you comment below? Send something to encourage Katelyn. I think we can never have enough of that encouragement. And just let her know that what she is doing matters, because I believe deeply in what she's doing. And so if that's been a blessing and meaningful to you, write her a message. You can send it all those different ways that we mentioned. So thank you again, Katelyn. Thank you, Garrett. And man, I'm excited to have you on future episodes, Katelyn. Any final words as we close out this series?
Stay strong. There's hope. There's lots of resources, and it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to keep our eye above the pain. Well, thank you again, and reach out, everyone. We'll hope to see you on the next episode.